of course, Duncan, that whenever we go, the lady who gives us our food is always like, "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty," because we always go in our garb before fair. And so it's just really funny because she's always like, "You're so pretty, you look like fairies," and we're like, "We are fairies."
Bienvenue. Welcome to Coffee Talk with King Francois I, where we will discover the tales, trials, and talents of Renaissance Festival performers, merchants, and die-hard attendees as we journey by way of lighthearted and even at times heartwarming conversations about the Renaissance Festival world. I am your host, Theodore Jander, aka King Francois I. Bonjour. Welcome to Coffee Talk with King Francois I, episode 27. The remaining festivals of 2023. I am your host, Theodore Jander. In this episode, I will be highlighting the remaining Renaissance festivals here in the US and one in Canada, with their names and upcoming October, November, and December dates. But before we do that, here is a short chat I had with fellow performer Kirsten Collier, where she shares her coffee preferences and a favorite Ren Faire experience story. So grab a cup of your favorite brew, sit back, and enjoy this episode of Coffee Talk with King Francois I. It is my pleasure to welcome Kirsten Collier to this episode's short chat segment of the Coffee Talk with King Francois I podcast. Well met to you, Kirsten.
Hello.
So for short chat segments included in episodes like the one you are listening to now, where I go solo, I am asking 3 questions as coffee is part of this podcast. The first 2 questions are coffee-oriented. The final inquiry will be about a favorite Ren Faire experience story. And so just a couple bits of information. Kirsten is what we would call a newbie on the cast for the St. Louis Renaissance Festival. And she is part of the Fae, and her character is Honey. And so if you can guess, she is a bee-oriented Fae. So her coloring, etc. Is that correct?
That is, yes.
Outstanding. As mentioned with the whole coffee component, as a coffee drinker, how do you take your coffee, and do you have a favorite roast?
I really enjoy cold brews. Those are my favorites.
Cold brews?
Yes.
Like just straight cold brew, or do you like cold brew with other things in it?
I like the cold brew with, there's cold foam on top of it.
Oh, okay.
And there's vanilla inside.
Oh, there you go.
It's very good.
Wonderful. Tell us about your favorite coffee shop. If there's a non-chain one, if there's a chain one, that's fine, because the location would probably be very easy to find. So that said, tell us about your favorite coffee shop and what do you like about it.
There is a Duncan, which, yes, of course, okay. Duncan, that whenever we go, the lady who gives us our food is always like, "Oh my gosh, you're so pretty," because we always go in our garb before fair. And so it's just really funny because she's always like, "You're so pretty, you look like fairies," and we're like, "We are fairies."
Cute. Well, that would make, I think, anybody's coffee purchasing experience better.
Yeah.
So I myself have experienced numerous and memorable encounters with patrons, cast, guest performers, artisans, merchants, and so on. So as a performer at a Renaissance festival, what is one of your favorite memories you would like to share even though we have just completed this second weekend, we already have a wonderful memory I would imagine that you would like to share with my listeners and me.
Oh, yes, very much so. So, my favorite, most memorable moment. So, a few things to know about me is I'm going to school to be an interpreter, like for the deaf and like hard of hearing and sign language and all that fun stuff.
Sweet.
And so, we had a deaf woman come to the fairy realm, and I was about to lay down for a little fairy nap. And the other fairies were like, honey, she's deaf. And so I like ran over to her and I tapped her on the arm and I was like, are you deaf? And she's like, yes, I'm deaf. And then I told her that I was I was a student to become an interpreter. And we had an entire conversation about like, it's a deaf culture thing where it's like, where are you learning? Why are you learning?
Mm-hmm.
What year are you? Like, there's lots of things that you talk about when you first meet someone and they're deaf, and you like, it's a whole thing. And so, it was just very cool because I got to use what I'm learning, like, in the real world. Well, real world in the fairy world, whatever.
And so I would say then, with that interaction, you as a cast member had a way of communicating with her that no one else maybe would have been able to, then creating and having a unique experience with a patron who will probably remember that a fairy dressed as a honeybee was able to talk to me.
Yeah, it was very cool. She was very excited that I could sign. She was very excited. She kept telling me how happy that I could sign. And I asked her if there was an interpreter for her, and she was like, no, there's not. And she was trying to get her friends to come, but there's no interpreters here.
Oof.
So I was like, well, I think we have a deaf weekend, and then I think we do.
Yeah,
October 14th, 16th.
14th, 15th, 15th,
Yes.
16th, something like that.
Something like that.
Yes.
But yeah.
Oh, cool. And if you hadn't guessed, this is a live interview shortly after our second weekend. And so I'm very grateful to Kirsten for taking this time as we are ready to go home, clean up, and sleep.
Yes.
So thank you, Kirsten, so much for taking this time out of your day and the evening to chat with me. So may the rest of your day and your week upcoming be filled with Renaissance merriment and many blessings to you in your craft.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I would like to again state my gratitude for Kirsten's willingness to answer these few questions and to participate in the in-person recording of our conversation. It really was a delight, especially to hear that particular story from her. Now, on to the remaining festivals of 2023. As was done for the show notes of episodes 10, 15, and 21, I am including the website addresses and full run dates for the mentioned festivals. Let's begin. As there are several fairs having started in August and September that go into October, and even one going into November, I'm going to do a quick review of those first. Wrapping up its season this weekend, October 7th and 8th, is the New York Renaissance Fair in Tuxedo Park, New York. The following two festivals have 2 more weekends remaining: the Connecticut Renaissance Fair in Lebanon, Connecticut, and the Kansas City Renaissance Festival in Bonner Springs, Kansas. Each of the next 4 festivals have 3 more weekends remaining, concluding on October 22nd. The Maryland Renaissance Festival in Annapolis, Maryland, King Richard's Fair in Carver, Massachusetts, the Northern California Renaissance Fair in Hollister, California, and the St. Louis Renaissance Festival in Wentzville, Missouri. The Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair in Manheim, Pennsylvania, and the Ohio Renaissance Festival in Waynesville, Ohio, both finish up on October 29th. Our last festival for review is the Carolina Renaissance Festival in Huntersville, North Carolina, which opened this past weekend and runs through November 19th. Having reviewed those, we now embark on our journey to the festivals beginning in October. Opening for this weekend only, October 7th and 8th, our choices include Days of Nights in Lancaster, Ohio, which is free to the public, the Grand Valley Renaissance Festival in Allendale Charter Township, Michigan, the Iowa Renaissance Festival in Middle Amana, Iowa, the Medieval Festival of Courage in McKinleyville, California, the Old English Fair Stronghold in Oregon, Illinois, the Renaissance of Kings Fair in Hanford, California, also with free admission, and the Spokane Renaissance Fair in Colbert, Washington, celebrating their 10th anniversary. Also opening this weekend, October 7th, and running through October 22nd, the Tennessee Medieval Fair in Harriman, Tennessee brings the age of chivalry and Robin Hood to life. From Tennessee, we travel to Todd Mission, Texas for the Texas Renaissance Festival, which first opened its gates in 1974 and has grown to be one of, if not the largest Renaissance festival in the United States. This fair opens October 7th and goes through November 26th. The next two options open on Friday, October 13th for one weekend only, concluding on Sunday, October 15th. First is the Age of Chivalry Las Vegas Renaissance Festival in Las Vegas, Nevada. Second, we travel to Dorchester, Ontario, Canada for the Oxford Renaissance Festival. We make our way to Maryville, Tennessee for the one-day only inaugural Dragon Valley Mini Ren Faire on October 14th. Another one-day only event on October 14th is the Punkin Chunkin Renaissance Fair in Ely, Nevada. I gotta say, this sounds like a gourd of a good time. That pun was a little ripe, I think. Anyhow, Baraboo, Wisconsin beckons us the weekend of October 14th and 15th for a gathering of rogues and ruffians. Journeying south, we can make a stop at Birdsell Castle for the Southern Indiana Renaissance Fair in Charlestown, Indiana. This festival is held on the weekends from October 14th through October 22nd. Opening October 14th and running weekends through November 12th, the Southeast Texas Renaissance Fair in Call, Texas will welcome visitors to their new site for the festival. Taking us back in time to the year 1306 and the reign of King Edward I, the Mississippi Renaissance Festival in Gulfport, Mississippi opens for one weekend only, October 20th and 21st. The Lord and Lady of the Ravenwood Fair in Clearbrook, Virginia invite us to join them on the weekends from October 20th through 29th. We head to the Midwest, specifically Kingdom City, Missouri, the weekend of October 21st and 22nd for the Central Missouri Renaissance Festival, set in the Irish village of Carlingford in the year 1550. On October 28th, the following two one-day-only events will be taking place. First is the inaugural festival of the Cottonwood Fair in Amarillo, Texas. Second is the Guadeloupe Renaissance Festival in Dauphin Island, Alabama. The next two festivals take place the weekend of October 28th and 29th. First up is the Alabama Renaissance Fair in Florence, Alabama, with free admission. Secondly, celebrating its 5th anniversary is the Hot Springs Renaissance Fair in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We head to California for the Escondido Renaissance Fair located in Escondido, California, and occurring the weekends of October 28th through November 5th. From West Coast to East Coast, opening for its second season October 28th and running through November 12th, we will find the Delaware Renaissance Fair in Townsend, Delaware. The month of November starts us off with the Lady of the Lakes Renaissance Fair, occurring the weekends of November 3rd through 12th in Tavares, Florida. Here you will travel back in time to the year 1606 and the reign of King James I. Though 99.9999999% of Renaissance festivals revolve around European or English village or town settings, the Appalachian Renaissance Fair of Tennessee takes a different approach. Occurring for one weekend only, November 4th and 5th in Greenville, Tennessee, the Appalachian Renaissance Fair of Tennessee follows an alternative timeline of historical events which bring guests to the New World and Renaissance Appalachia. Another option for the weekend of November 4th and 5th is the OKC Renaissance and Scottish Festival in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Heading southeast the weekends from November 4th through 26th, we find ourselves in the woods of Mallarene, the setting for the Sarasota Medieval Fair in Mayaca City, Florida. Opening November 4th and running weekends through December 10th, the Louisiana Renaissance Festival in Hammond, Louisiana finds Queen Elizabeth I on holiday and visiting the village of Albright. Feel like a trip west across the Pacific Ocean for a festival? If so, the one-day only Honoka'a Renaissance Fair takes place on November 11th in Honoka'a, Hawaii. Back on the mainland in Fresno, California, the weekend of November 11th and 12th, Henry VIII invites us all to attend the Kearney Renaissance Fair set in the year of 1539. We journey east to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for the Mythical and Medieval Fest, opening for 2 weekends, November 11th through the 19th. This festival is Renaissance themed with the purpose of raising money for Caleb's Dragonfly Dreams, a Myrtle Beach, South Carolina local nonprofit that provides positive activities for children who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected and reside in group homes or shelters. Home to the Knights of Valor, a full contact and also labeled Extreme jousting team, the Jubilee Renaissance Fair in Robertsdale, Alabama opens for 1 weekend only on November 18th and 19th. Also opening November 18th, but running through December 10th, the Suncoast Renaissance Festival beckons us to Sarasota, Florida. 2023 draws to a close with 2 remaining Renaissance festivals that begin in December. The 1 weekend only Renaissance Christmas in Bridgeton, New Jersey brings together the delightful elements of a Renaissance festival and Christmas. This event will be open the weekend of December 2nd and 3rd. We close out this installment of Coffee Talk with King Francois I as the Duke and Duchess of the Orlando Renaissance Festival welcome you with open arms on the weekends December 2nd through 10th in Orlando, Florida. In the event I missed a Renaissance festival or 2, please reach out to me through my website, which I do provide at the close of the episode, and you can also find that information in the show notes. I do hope you enjoyed this informative episode. To find out more about the festivals mentioned, check out their links in the show notes. Be on the lookout for the next installment of Coffee Talk with King Francois I. If you are a performer, merchant, staff, or diehard patron in or of the Renaissance Festival world and would like to be featured on Coffee Talk with King Francois I, reach out to me by way of clicking on the following link provided in the show notes: www.theodorejander.com/Coffee Talk Podcast. Would you like to receive early access every other week to each new episode, as well as receive a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the production and creative process for the podcast? If so, join the wonderful community of listeners supporting the show and making new things possible through Patreon. Learn more at www.patreon.com/Coffee Talk with King Francois. The link will be provided in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee Talk with King Francois Premier. A bientôt. See you soon. Ciao for now and au revoir.